Hello everyone and welcome to AzamSharp YouTube channel. Now in this video, I'm going to show you that how you can configure and implement global sheets or modals in SwiftUI. Now, what do I even mean by global sheets? Well, if you want to display a sheet, you use the sheet modifier. And you can display multiple sheets if you have multiple sheet modifiers. There we go, right? Well, this is all fine, and you can control it by creating an enum inside your content view or inside a different view. That is also perfectly fine. But would it be nice if you can configure it in such a way that you have only one place where you have defined all of your sheets, and you can simply show them by writing much simplest code. So if I have some code like this, I can say show sheet, and I can say whatever the sheet, let's say detail or settings. I think this looks nice, right? So how can we achieve this kind of scenario or this kind of result? Now keep in mind that I'm not saying that once you learn this technique, you should have to use this and it's going to be the best technique, best pattern. If you use it in a different way, if you create multiple modifiers wrong, I am not saying that. I'm just showing you a different way of doing things. Maybe it will work in your project, maybe it won't. You decide, all right? Okay, so basically the whole idea is that we want to expose our sheet. We want to show the sheet something like this. Show sheet and then simply the actual value or the sheet or the type of sheet that we want to display. But how can we create this, right? So one of the ways that you can do that is by creating a custom environment value. But before I do that, let's go ahead and define sheet. So a sheet will be an enum because we have predefined number of sheets. And I'll say I have a sheet for settings, I have a sheet for contact us, I guess. And you can add multiple things over here. I can have like add something, add customer. You get the idea. And we want to also make sure that this is identifiable. So I'm just going to go ahead and conform to the identifiable protocol, which means that I need to implement the ID property, which I'm just going to return the self itself, which is an enum. Now, right now I'm writing all this code into the content view, but make sure that if you're working on an actual app, you should extract this code out, put it into the corresponding file. The only reason that I'm typing all this code over here, so I can provide you in a much easier way, like just a gist. So now we have a sheet enum, which define two different cases, settings and contact. This means the settings will be displayed in a sheet and contact will be displayed in a sheet. In order to use syntax similar to this one, we have to create custom environment values. So let's go ahead and create custom environment value. But before that, I'm going to create a sheet action. Sheet action, which is simply a struct. And in this, I'm going to create an action, which is going to give me access to the sheet. And it's not really going to return anything. Now, this is kind of like the same implementation if you have ever used the dismiss environment value. Dismiss. If you look at their code or if you try to recreate this, you're going to find out that dismiss uses the same procedure. They create like a dismiss action, and then they invoke the action using call as function. Now I can create, using that type, I can create a variable called action, which is of type alias action. And I can create a function which is called call as function. All right. So this is one of the ways that you can do that. Other way is you can expose closures, but sometimes closures can start leaking memory. So you have to be very careful with those things. All right. Okay. So we have the sheet action. We have call as function, which simply calls the actual action, which is a closure, but everything is inside a struct. So this is the value type. So that's good. The next thing that we want to do is to start creating our environment values, and we will start by creating a key. Just like the dismiss is kind of like a key, we have to create a key for that. So I'm going to say show sheet key. This will be the environment key, and we need to implement the default value. So I'll say sheet action equals to sheet action. And over here, it's a closure. And since I'm just initializing it, I don't really have to pass anything. So I'm just going to pass in an empty closure over here. Okay, so it's empty closure. We're not really doing anything. Next, I'm going to go ahead and extend the environment value so it is available to us. And this is your opportunity to call this anything you want. Just like dismiss is one of those environment values, I'm just going to call it show sheet. All right, and this is going to return us the sheet action. We will have to implement the getter and the setter. So getter will be, let's see, we have the short sheet key. So this will be the actual type that we're going to be returning, and this is the same exact type that we will be setting also. So self show sheet key equals to new value. All right, great. So now we have created our environment value, which is show sheet. It has an action that you can fire passing in the sheet, which is of type enum. So what will be our next steps? Right? So our next step can be that we can start using it. Like we can start using it over here also. I mean, I can go ahead and say environment, show sheet. You can see it's coming up now. Show sheet. And now I can use that same code that was not working before, but I can do that. The problem right now is that even though you're calling it, and that's perfectly fine, we haven't really implemented any code that is actually going to show you the sheet, right? So how can we do that? I mean, right now, you can click on this button, show sheet, and it's not really going to anything. Actually, I should say show settings screen, right? Settings screen. If I click on it, you can see nothing happens because we're not really doing anything. So this is where you will have to make sure that when you call this show sheet, it is handled somewhere on the parent. Now, currently, the content view doesn't really have a parent. We can implement it, and we should probably implement it over here in the Learn app. But let me actually show you that if you're just working with the previews, how you can handle it. And then I'll show you that how you can handle it when you're actually running the app. All right. So in the previews, what we can do, and this is just for the previews, I can go ahead and create a content view container, which is a view. Now, this is nothing more than a view. The only reason I'm creating that is so that I can actually wrap my content view, and this will give me an opportunity to create the state variables and then other stuff. So now I have the content view container. Let's update this preview. I'll preview the content view container. Okay, so in the content view container, first of all, in the content view, we need to inject the environment key. Apart from that, I don't really have to use a navigation stack, but you can if you want to. That's perfectly fine too. You can wrap this in a navigation stack. But you don't really need a navigation stack for the sheets to work because those are modals that are presenting. All right, so if you want to remove it, that's perfectly fine too. I mean, here, I can remove it for you, or you can add it depending on your app that you're working on. Next, I'll inject the environment. So I'll say over here, show sheet. See that? It's coming up. The value will be sheet action. And in the sheet action, we'll get access to the sheet. Once we get the sheet, we can assign it to a local state variable. So I can go over here and I can say private var selected sheet, which is of type sheet. And I can say selected sheet equals to sheet. All right. So now anytime we are going to call this show sheet from our content view or any other view, it is going to fire this closure and it's going to set the selected sheet as the sheet value, the sheet enum. Now, whenever this is set, this gives us an opportunity to display a sheet. And there we go. You can see the sheet is coming up now. And I can actually say, whenever the selected sheet changes, give me the sheet. And then we can do a switch on the sheet. And now it is our opportunity to display something. All right. So what can we display over here? Actually, oh, not selected sheet over here. Sorry. Hold on. Let me go back a little bit. This will be switch on the sheet, not the selected sheet, because the sheet over here is already unwrapped. So we should just use that one, right? So switch on sheet, case, settings. Now this is your opportunity to show any view you want. So I can say over here, show me a text view with settings, or show me a contact view, which is whatever. But replace those with your actual views. All right. Let's go ahead and build it. So hopefully now we will be able to show the sheet. So I'm going to say, there we go. You can see settings. Pretty cool, right? So your code now is more, narrowed out into just one single place. All right. Okay. There we go. Pretty cool. What about the other one? Let's say that if I want to display contact, so I can just create another button over here, show contact screen, and I'll just change that to contact, right? So show setting screen, setting coming up, show contact screen, contact coming up. So this is pretty good. It's already working. And you can see that the actual code to show the sheet is now much nicer, much more compact. You're not really using multiple sheets. Like I'm not doing over here, oh, I have to create a sheet over here, I have to create another sheet, and so on. It's all of that has been centralized to one place, one location. We can even make sure that this is a little bit nicer. We can create a separate view. We can call it sheet view. Nothing more than a view. It's nothing more. All right. And over here, it will have a dependency on the sheet. So you can pass in the sheet. And we can actually use all of this code, just replace it right there and call sheet view and pass in the sheet. So it becomes a little bit nicer now because now you have this sheet view and that kind of shows and maintains all the sheets. All right. So this is it. Now we can display the settings, we can display contact and so on. But how will we actually make it work? I mean, this is working in the previews, but how will we make it work when we're working on the actual app? Like if I go ahead and run my actual app, let's go ahead and run it. So I'm going to run it on the simulator and see that if it works or not. All right, so let's see if our simulator is working. It's going to take a while to run the simulator. So once it is running, we'll come back. So here it is, our simulator is running, but if I go ahead and do show setting screen, show context screen, nothing actually happens. And one of the arguments at this point is that since we're using environment values, right, and we forgot to inject it, that can be dangerous. But I don't really think that's a big problem because hopefully you're testing your app, right? I mean, you're not just making changes and just say, okay, just deploy. Don't forget, don't worry about running the app. Just deploy the app. I know it works. We don't do that in software development. Hopefully we don't. I mean, when we are writing our app, we are running our quality assurance team is going to go through. Sometimes they're going to check things manually. Sometimes the test is going to run. And especially the end-to-end testing is going to catch that, oh, sheet is not being displayed. So you were not able to set the settings that you wanted to set. So those are not big issues. And you can see that I didn't add that on purpose. Now, I don't really need a navigation view, but a navigation stack, but I'm just going to add it. There we go. And we can use the same exact approach over here. So if I go to the content view, I can see that this is how we were adding all the stuff. So I can just copy it, because remember, this content view container, this is just for the previews. We're not really using it in our actual app, just for the previews. Let's go back. And I'm just going to go ahead and attach it, environment. Now you can see that we don't have the selected sheet over here, so not a big problem. I can just go ahead and create selected sheet. And this will be of type sheet. And there we go. So now hopefully when we run our application in an actual simulator or on the device, it will also work. There we go. It's working. Great. Okay. So this is pretty cool that we are able to build this and we are able to utilize this. Now, the only part of the sheet, the only time you have a sheet modifier is right there in your main or the root view of the application. So you have mostly like centralize your displaying of the sheet. Now, one of the other questions is, what if I wanted to pass an argument? I mean, that happens, right? I mean, you're showing the sheet, maybe you're displaying contact, and you want to pass an argument. So what can we do? Well, if you wanted to pass an argument, let's go back to our cases that we created right here. You can see that we have a case for settings, we have a case for contact us. If you want to pass an argument, then you can include that in the case itself. And as soon as we do that, you can see that the sheet now is not conforming to the protocol. So we need to fix that. So how do you think that we can fix that part? Not like that, but how do you think that we can fix this part now, right? We need to make sure that the contact, because now you're passing a string over here, and we need to make sure to fix or make sure that it's conformed to identifiable before we can even continue. So let's go ahead and do that. So the easiest way would be to just go ahead and conform to hashable. And since string also conform to hashable, you can still use this ID property. Now we still have to go down and make sure that when we are using contact over here, we are passing something, because now this becomes the requirement, right? So I'm just going to say John Doe, just to show you that we can pass an argument. Let's see if we are able to capture this argument. So we go to sheet view. You can see the sheet view, we get contact, but over here, we're not even accessing that. And I can say contacting name. All right. So let's see if that works. Show settings screen. Okay, good. Show contact screen, contacting John Doe. So you can pass arguments if you want to. The other question that you may have is, well, sometime what happens is the sheet itself, and by the way, this I'll share you probably in the code, but sheet over here has a dismiss function, right? And sometimes you want to use the dismiss function. So how can we accommodate the dismiss function also? Now, if you want to accommodate the dismiss function, now it's a little bit of code that you will have to write. And to be really honest, it doesn't look good. I mean, you just have to create another closure, and you have to make sure that closure is, returning the actual dismiss function. I can show it to you, but keep in mind that it's not really going to look good. All right. Now, I hardly ever use the onDismiss, but I'm sure that you can have those requirements for the dismiss, and you may have to use that. But before we dive into implementing the dismiss feature, let's go ahead and thank the sponsors for this video. This video is sponsored by AzamSharp School, which hosts one of the largest catalog for iOS development videos. Go ahead and check out the courses. I have been keep on adding new courses, and currently I am working on this Supabase course, And this is an amazing course. You can see a lot of content has already been added, and I keep on adding new content to it. You can see authentication, storage, real-time, relationships, MV pattern, getting started, everything. It covers everything, and I still have to add a lot more content to this course. Apart from this course, the best way, I believe, to learn is hands-on. And that is why I created these workshops. Now, these workshops are very hands-on. They're 2.5 to 3 hours long. You will get access to the complete repository. The next workshop is coming up on August 17th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central. It will be about machine learning and CreateML. We're going to do some really cool practical stuff like image classification, sentiment analysis, object detection, and even tabular data. Now, you can get access to that. You can enroll in this workshop for $197 because these workshops usually cost $600, $800, even more, like $1,000 or so, like if you want to take it somewhere else. So this is a great deal. And another great deal that I have for you is you can have free workshops if you just sign up to become an annual member. And I have a lot of people who are actually now signing up for annual membership because they just want to attend free workshops, whether it's CreateML, whether it's server-side Swift. So if you sign up to become a yearly member, annual member, then you get the workshop 100% free, all the workshops for free. So check out all of these awesome workshops. Machine learning is just one of them. If you scroll down, Introduction to Server-Side Swift using Vapor, Swift Data Fundamentals, Introduction to Testing in iOS. I mean, these are some really practical workshops. And then Supabase for iOS developers. So if you become a member, for the annual member, you get free workshops. If you are monthly member, then you get 50% off on the workshops. So this is a great deal. I mean, these workshops are, as I was explaining, it's like $800 or $600 to $1,000 workshop, and you're getting it for free just for signing up for annual membership. Or if you just want to go and attend a single workshop, you can also pay one-time enrollment fee, and then you can attend the workshops. So these are really good workshops, and I hope that you enjoy them, and I hope that you attend them. Thank you so much. Now let's go back to the video. All right, so how do we add the dismiss functionality? Now, keep in mind that dismiss, when we add that, it's not gonna look pretty, all right? So, and I usually don't use on dismiss, but you know what? Requirements can be very different. You might be saying, hey, I want to use dismiss. So in order to use dismiss, I have to modify the action over here because right now the action is only taking the sheet itself. So what I can do is I can add another argument over here, which is like a dismiss function, like a closure. But we also want to make sure that this is nullable because sometimes you will have dismiss, sometimes you won't. You can see it's already ugly, right? Okay. And call as function, this is where we will also pass in the dismiss. There we go. And this will become a closure. We can also wrap this. Since it's nullable, I can assign initial value to be nil. I think it's missing something. There we go. Probably this one. And for the action, now I can pass in dismiss also. Now the default value will also change because we have two arguments over here. I don't really care that much about arguments, so I'm just going to ignore. So I can just pass an underscore over here. That's fine. The dismiss will be initiated by the content view, by the actual view, not by the parent, because the actual view, the actual screen will say that, oh, this function needs to be fired when you dismiss a sheet. So we can create that function right inside over here in the content view. So I can say add, whatever the model is presented, I guess, in this case, right? So we can say settings, screen dismissed, just to give it some sort of a name. And over here in the print statement, I can just type the same thing. Now, when I show the settings screen, by default, the dismiss is not really going to get called because it's null. But I can call this function, I can pass this function, settings screen dismissed, And now I'm saying that, oh, when the setting screen dismiss, then call this function. But right now it's not going to do anything because in the environment, it's not really taken into account the dismiss argument. So we need to, apart from the sheet, we need to pass in the dismiss also. By the way, if you don't need dismiss, then don't add that. I mean, you can just use the sheet. I think it looks much nicer. Just like the selected sheet, now I need another variable to hold the value of on sheet dismissed, on sheet dismiss, I guess, plural, singular. And again, it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be, and that is what makes it a little weird that you have to do this like this. I mean, you can, I guess, create some sort of a type alias for this also if you want. And now I can say on sheet dismiss, and I'll simply assign it. And for the sheet itself, now I can implement on dismiss and fire the function. Well, the function can be on sheet dismiss. I think that should work probably. All right, let's go ahead and see if, oh, it's not really working. It's not actually building. Let's see what's going on. Oh, we have to also fix it in our code over here. Remember? And this code is very similar, so I'm just going to probably copy some parts of it. It's the same code. I mean, you know, it's the same thing. It's just in the, one is for the preview and one is for the actual app. So I'm just going to replace some parts of it. It's the same code I'm copy pasting. Okay, let's run it in the simulator. Show setting screen, dismissed. See that? Setting screen is getting dismissed. Show setting screen dismissed. Show context screen. Nope, nothing. So because the context screen is not really using the dismiss. If you see over here, where is the context screen? Right over here, you can see we're not using the dismiss. While on the setting screen, we are using dismiss. It's a little bit weird, I mean, a little bit ugly, I guess, when you add the dismiss, it's just too many arguments, but you can still make it work with dismiss. You can still make it work with passing arguments, as you have seen with the contact us, we are passing the name and so on. So you have all of those options available. Now, would you go and update your code to use this? I don't know. That is your decision. That is not my decision. Talk to your team. What are the benefits you're going to gain? If there are no benefits, then obviously don't update, but maybe you will, maybe you won't. All right. So there's no one size fits all solution. You will have to weigh in the pros and cons. And if you think that this is going to be beneficial for your team, then yeah, go, you can play around with it and see how it works. If not, then use the approach that you're already working with. All right. So that is pretty much it. Thank you so much once again, and definitely check out AzamSharp.school. You have a lot of courses over there, a lot of different workshops, especially the workshops. I'm telling you, these are all very hands-on workshops, and by the end of the workshop, you will have enough knowledge to start building your machine learning application or start building your Vapor server or play around with Swift data. So a lot of these things I teach for a living, so I create the content that I know is going to work, and you get all the code, you get the repository, you get everything. All right. So thank you so much, and I'll see you in the future.